Okay, thank you. Right, good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Development Committee of North Norfolk District Council on Thursday, 11th January 2024. I'm Councillor Paul Heinrich and I'm chairing this meeting today. For those who haven't attended a meeting previously, members that make up the committee and be voting on the applications are seated in front of me, left and right. In the centre, public speakers, when called, will come to the microphone at the end of this bench. I'll explain that further later. Could I ask officers to introduce themselves, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Russell Williams. I'm the Assistant Director for Planning at North Norfolk District Council.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Joseph Barrow and I'm a Senior Planning Officer.
Lauren Gregory, Democratic Services Officer.
Rob Gilliff, Coastal Transition Manager.
Good morning, Brian Farrow, Coastal Engineer.
Alistair Zangs, Coastal Transition Placemaker.
Vienna Croxton, Solicitor to the Council.
Thank you. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Could you make sure your mobiles are off or on silent, please? Includes members. If there is a fire alarm sounding, it is for real. There are no practices expected. If it does go off, then please make your way to the exits and assemble in either the front car park or the rear garden. Obviously, do not use the lift. If we are still going at 11, I will probably call a short break, in which case, just remind you that you should not be trying to speak to members of the committee during any break or during the meeting. I don't expect to be running into lunchtime, I'm very pleased to know. It's not the same as the very long agenda we had last time. So, could we have apologies, please, Lauren?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Victoria Holiday and Councillor Liz Vickers. And if I may to the next item, Chairman,
Yes.
Substitutes, Councillor Tim Adams is present as a substitute for Councillor Victoria Holiday and Councillor Kevin Bayes as a substitute for Councillor Liz Vickers.
Thank you. Item 4 then is minutes of the previous meeting. A copy was circulated, obviously, with your papers. There were 1 or 2 amendments noticed in terms of minor errors when we had the pre-meeting. A later version was circulated by email. I take it everybody has read. Are there any other matters that need to be raised on the accuracy of those minutes? Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, just to say that readers of Apostrophe Monthly are very happy this month.
Well, I'm pleased to hear it, Councillor. Are we therefore happy to take those as a correct record? Thank you. The order of business, items of urgent business, I have none.
None received.
Thank you. The order of business will be as on your papers. Item 7, declarations of interest. Anybody? Yes, Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to say that non-pecuniary interests, I am a friend of the applicant of item 10 and a member of the National Trust of item 12.
Thank you. I declare that I am a member of the National Trust as well. I would also declare a pecuniary interest in agenda item 13. I shall pass the chair at that point to Councillor MacDonald and leave the room while that one is discussed. Thank you. Okay, we will move swiftly on to the first item, Haysborough PF/22/2510. If I could ask Councillor Barrow to present, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, this is an application following deferment by committee for a rollback scheme and new access track serving Haysborough Beach car park. You'll note from the agenda, it was promised that we would provide you with a verbal update of Highway's latest comments, and I do have those in front of me. There are no concerns relating to the delivery of the carriageway widening to the north, which we will be able to point out as we move through this presentation. There are some slight concerns expressed in the highway response about the passing bay delivery, but that can also be quite extensively discussed throughout this meeting. And then a series of conditions recommended if there is a recommendation to approve. These conditions, just to summarise, relate to delivery of the access subject to technical drawings, that's access and connecting into the network. Permitted development rights removed for gates and bollards unless otherwise submitted to and agreed in writing with us. Provision of visibility displays, again before the first use of the development. Provision of the actual turning area and facilities and parking area. A construction traffic management plan and access route to ensure that disruption is minimised during construction. Again, just compliance with that scheme. And off-site highway improvement works to be submitted and agreed in writing by the local planning authority as well, and then delivered in a timely manner before the first use of the development. So that's the summary of the highway officer comments. So just to move forwards through the presentation now, just to jog members' memories and anyone who maybe wasn't here for the previous meeting, we have the site location plan. It's just to the south of properties on Beach Road. With the current access there, you'll see to the east of the site. The proposed layout is as shown here, with the provision of spaces including disability accessible spaces and two-wheeler spaces outside of that blue line, which is one of the coastal erosion zones. Just some aerial imagery just to demonstrate the coastal erosion effects that we are contending with this item. You'll see obviously as we move through these slides, the retreat that we are battling on that east side there. Since the last committee presentation to yourselves, this is some recent drone footage from winter in 2023, and I'm told that it may even be retreating further than that at this time, given recent storms. So the key elements of the proposal, as were presented beforehand, are provision of the new access drive, which is intended to keep the existing car park open. Delivery of new spaces only when that existing car park is rendered unsafe. Ecological enhancements and landscaping to the north and west of the site. Grass creek to be used throughout. And as you'll see from the report, the proposal is also supported by various planning policies, coastal erosion policies, and supports ongoing access to various assets and tourism attractions we have on that coastline. One of the key reasons for the deferment was about the impacts on the highway network, and just to again jog everyone's memory, this is the network we're largely contending with and trying to do the best that we can with. Certain discussions particularly were had about this junction, the Lighthouse Lane Beach Road junction, which would normally traffic would flow straight down there along Beach Road, whereas now we'll have to use this junction to turn right, as per the photo on the right hand side there. And then following that, it was consideration of the differences between Beach Road and its standards and Lighthouse Lane and its standards, and how that would impact highway safety and visibility and other such things. Just moving through there just to show Lighthouse Lane and Beach Road in comparison. So here is the approximate site of the new car parking spaces. And that area along the left behind that hedge is one of the areas that we're also proposing some landscaping and some ecological enhancements as well. So the result of the additional highway consideration following the deferment by committee and to be secured via conditional highways agreements is the provision of at least 2 passing bays along Lighthouse Lane between the access and Wimpwell Streets. Carriageway widening to the east of Lighthouse Lane, and that is between the new access road and the dwellings to the north. So that is along the route between the access and Beach Road. and positive signage which would encourage traffic to turn right when leaving the car park, therefore taking it past that carriageway widening area. So the overall recommendation is approval subject to conditions. You'll note any other highway conditions is number 13 there, and those conditions at the moment are recommended to be as per the highways update that was read out at the start of this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now move to speakers. Starting with town and parish speaker, David Mole. Come to the microphone, please. As with all speakers, have 3 minutes maximum, and Lauren will be timing people. That's 3 minutes from the time you start. Thank you.
Yes, sit down or stand.
No, sit, please.
Yeah.
Will be more comfortable.
Okay. I'm David Mole. I'm chair of Haysborough Parish Council. I'm speaking in favour of this proposal. The car park has always been a big feature of Haysborough's economy. Haysborough's a tourist village. People need to park when they come to the village, and the existing car park works well. But of course, the erosion is creeping forward daily, I'll say, which isn't an exaggeration, and we're going to lose the entrance to the car park. This first proposal is just for the new access to it. As they've said, it's not additional. It's not encouraging more traffic down Beach Road. In fact, Beach Road will then become a cul-de-sac without any through traffic. So the residents will then have their road to themselves. We're proposing across the back this access to the new car park, just the access, which, as we're saying, we're going to close it in the evenings. We're keeping it going there. And another big feature is that the income from the car park supports the play area, the maintenance of the car park, and the toilets that are, I boast, they're award-winning toilets, are kept going, which are a feature of the area. If families have been on the beach for a couple of hours, they then want to come up and probably use the toilets before they get back in their car. Well, we can't afford to keep those toilets going. They're paid for through car park income. There's also a very useful stream of income towards general village purposes, such items as extra road cutting of the verges, maintenance of the playing field and the play equipment is all paid for through car park funds. And we've got a very low precept as well, which we can support, again, through the car park. So my point being that the car park is an essential part of Haysborough and Haysborough's economy, and this is a way of maintaining it. It's not a perfect solution. We realise that. We went round and round the big exercise, looking at alternatives, looking at other places where we could do it, and this is all we've come up with. That's all. Thank you.
Haysborough Parish Council has a duty to represent the residents of the parish and to act in their best interests. At the very least, councillors have a duty to listen to and take into account the views of the residents whom they represent. In this case, this hasn't been done effectively. Until recently, my mother lived in Kite House in Lighthouse Lane, having lived in the village for 30 years. Kite House is undoubtedly most impacted by the proposed car park, being right on the junction of the new access road and with traffic leaving the car park, driving directly towards the front aspect of the house. Over the past 2 years, despite the raising of objections by many local residents, the parish council has not engaged in any direct consultation with my mother or with other residents to listen to their views or to take account of their concerns. as evidenced by the recent petition of 95 signatories and 25 public objections to the proposal, with only 3 public comments in support. As requested by the Development Committee, the Parish Council has engaged professional consultants to explore ways of overcoming Highways objections, but hasn't engaged with local residents. The proposed car park scheme is for the benefit of visiting motorists rather than the residents of Haysborough. There are other options available to the Parish Council for accommodating visitors to Haysborough that have a more modest and fair impact on the residents of the village. These should be explored. I understand the Parish Council agreed at its last meeting that a consultation with concerned residents would be set up, but so far nothing has been done. This state of affairs is undemocratic and contrary to the National Planning Policy Framework. Paragraph 131 states good design is a key aspect of sustainable development, creates better places in which to live and work, and helps make development acceptable to communities. It goes on to say that to achieve good design, it's essential to have effective engagement between applicants, communities, local planning authorities, and other interests throughout the process. Paragraph 137 states applicants should work closely with those affected by their proposals to evolve designs that take account of the views of the community. Applications that can demonstrate early, proactive, and effective engagement with the community should be looked on more favourably than those that cannot. I'd urge the committee to consider whether the approval of this scheme would set an unfortunate precedent for future planning applications, that views and concerns of local residents can simply be ignored by developers and parish councils. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next objecting speaker, Robert Grothy.
Thank you. Good morning. The gain of a new car park would be at the expense of a tremendous loss to the residents of Lighthouse Lane and associated roads in quality of life and amenity. These roads will become congested, restricting viable vehicle flow, whilst delivering noise, pollution, and aggravation to residents. Exiting along Lighthouse Lane at peak times of the tourist season would be extremely difficult against the flow to the car park. Service vehicle movements and emergency needs would be a concern in this regard. Visitors would have to endure the road access problems, and after paying their parking fee, could find on many occasions that the beach ramp has been washed away by the sea, conspiring with weather. Tourists visiting the location, either short or long stay, would maybe not be suitably impressed by the visit and not return. The Parish Council is aware of the alternative locations for the car park, but has chosen not to investigate them at all. One of these could provide guaranteed ongoing beach access, eliminating the need and cost of constantly creating a new sand ramp. All of the proposed documents have been examined in detail, and no statement of costings or funding has been found. It is folly to proceed with this plan for visiting the beach without a guarantee of so doing on foot. The views of the residents have not been considered to develop an acceptable proposal. All Highways Agency requirements should be fully complied with. The opportunity to landscape with increased tree and hedge planting should be taken to increase biodiversity, reduce emissions footprints, and provide maximum effective screening at the junction opposite Kite and Atherstone houses. This proposal is ill-judged and would be a blot on the Haysborough history for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Third objecting speaker, Marilyn Howland. The microphone, please.
Good morning. I'm here speaking again about the rollback car park at Haysborough. We do need a car park, but do we need a car park there? Nearly every year, sometimes more than once, the ramp to the beach is not in use due to bad weather and erosion. When the ramp is usable, some visitors choose to park in Whitwell Street, Lighthouse Close, to avoid the car park charges. Local residents do divert traffic to the Wen Evans car park, where they walk with their family past the church, past the public house, across the old caravan site to the beach. They pack their beach trolleys and away they go. If the car park at the Wen Evans was extended, there is a field to the right of the Wen Evans. The building already has toilets, has a kitchen. It wouldn't take long to move the play equipment to this area. No new roads would be needed. Social behaviour is such that when they have a cup of tea, coffee, a comfort break, they will pick up the village trail, which navigates you safely around one of Norfolk's historic villages, Haysborough, giving local businesses the much needed revenue. The fresh fish shop, the church, included the tower climb, village gift shop, Sarnies, the lighthouse and the village pub. Also, the Wen Evans Centre could have pop-up stalls for crafts, cake stalls showing bowls, knitting, painting, bell ringing, sculpture, clubs that already exist in our village. The Wednesday Hub, Coastal Watch, RNLI, having a chat over tea, coffee often opens doors to other things. Some of the suggested options by the highways authorities are not viable. You would have to put traffic lights at the top of Lighthouse Lane onto Wimpwell Street, also double yellow lines to stop locals parking, as this is a dangerous junction when exiting, causing backup traffic in Lighthouse Lane, which restricts access to emergency vehicles, delivery vehicles, Royal Mail, etc., and council bin lorries. Local residents using access from their properties, walking animals, children in pushchairs, and slow older residents with restricted mobility, this is going to have a devastating effect on their quality of life. All I ask is that Haysborough don't think about the revenue from the car park, which can be moved to Wen Evans, and think about the residents of Haysborough who make this village a lovely village. Thank you.
Thank you. And the final objecting speaker, please, Francis Batt.
Good morning. Haysborough is now in a quandary due to the erosion, whether to keep moving the car park with the rollback scenario or to make a one-off move to another location and make good for the future, serving 40, 50 years or more. The plans now to keep moving it back has been met with quite some opposition for the following reasons. Lack of thought and consultation with the residents it affects, despite promises to be transparent and open with all information. The safety aspect to pedestrians, the increase of traffic along very narrow lanes with no real solution to alleviate the inevitable blocks and tailbacks it will cause. The costs required for this to be achieved, and overall safety, noise, air pollution, drainage, and privacy. It has been said that people will not walk. This is untrue, as proven at Cromer, Overstrand, Munsley, and many other coastal villages and towns along the Norfolk coast, and of course, Haysborough, as many walk from the new campsite to the beach, alongside locals and dog walkers, especially as Haysborough Beach is open for dogs all year. Other sites would be less invasive and less costly if investigated properly. Conversing with landowners, to either rent or buy land suitable, instead of panicking into what could be a disastrous decision. Temporary solutions mean time of parking at the Wen Evans or Cart Gap, while a conscientious effort is made to converse with residents who have more options on the placing of a car park within the hub of the village it mainly affects. To be consulted, open, and informed with a vote from the residents for the best option to work for the village. We moved to this pretty village, Haysborough by the Sea, in 2010. It had a wonderful atmosphere and was cared for. But over the years, with dismay, we now find that more thought is put to the daily visitor than the village and its residents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Before I move to supporting speakers, gentlemen, they're standing. There are some seats at the back if you wish to take them. Right, we move then to supporting speakers. In the order on my list, Michelle Robinson.
Hello, I'm Michelle Robinson, Director of Pre-Planning at Callum Consulting. Following the deferral at July's Development Control meeting, we've undertaken a review of the potential off-site highway improvements as requested. The latest report dated 8th of December outlines the mitigation and off-site highway improvements that have been considered, all of which have been discussed with Highways. There were a number of improvements that were considered, some of which have been deemed not suitable, and obviously the ones presented are the ones that are going to be taken forward. We've considered an access track within the field, a one-way route along Lighthouse Lane, widening of Lighthouse Lane on the approach to Wimpwell Street, pedestrian connections, road widening west of Lighthouse Lane where cars currently park, road widening east of Lighthouse Lane, changing priority at the Beach Road Lighthouse Lane Junction and Passing Bays. With regards to the change in priority of the junction, a road safety audit was undertaken to consider that further. However, that identified some problems that were unable to be addressed due to insufficient highway land. Therefore, that improvement has not been taken forward as a recommendation, and Highways are in agreement that that works would not be suitable. The proposed mitigation and offsite improvements that will be taken forward, as already outlined, are road widening between the residential dwellings and the new car park access on the eastern side of the road, passing bays on Lighthouse Lane, and positive signage to direct those exiting the car park to turn right onto Lighthouse Lane and Beach Road. The road widening will provide a road width of 4.8 metres as a minimum, which enables 2 cars to safely pass. A safe access with suitable visibility displays and positive signage will also be provided. With regards to the Highways response dated 20th December, it follows the review of the latest reports and the additional information that Highways requested. The additional information was topographic survey of Lighthouse Lane with the widening access and passing bays drawn up on the topo. Highways are satisfied with the widening to the north and the access and the signage, but did express some concerns over the deliverability of passing bays. Further work has been done with regards to the passing bays, and they are located within highway land, although there is a small sliver of third-party land that will be needed to provide a bank on the field side. At least 2 of those passing bays are in the same land ownership as the land that is going through for the access. So we are confident they can be provided and land can be agreed to re-provide the bank, so there's no impact on surface water runoff from the field to the road. The third passing bay again will require a slight sliver of land, which is another third party. However, it's minimal impact on the fields and we're confident it can be provided.
I'm probably the Haysborough resident most personally affected by the car park. 10 years ago, I could walk from my front door straight onto the cliff top. In my present house, the car park is beside my garden. I thought then that the car park was a good idea. I still think it was a good idea. Without it, Haysborough residents would be made miserable by visitors parking all along the roads, opposite houses, make it impossible to get out, and even parking on private drives, blocking cars in, as happened during the COVID lockdown. A statement made to the Eastern Daily Press by some people living in Lighthouse Lane said that no one in Beach Road wanted the new track, although we hadn't actually been asked for our views. So we canvassed almost everyone in the 19 houses in Beach Road. One household was split, one was neutral, 3 were against it. In all, 21 people living in Beach Road signed the petition in favour of the new track. Of course, Lighthouse Lane will take more traffic, but with new parking bays, there'll be less congestion than we experience in Beach Road now, which has only one unofficial passing place. The opponents to this scheme seem concerned that they will be personally inconvenienced. Without sounding pie, I was brought up to consider the well-being of others as well as my own. I'm distressed by the views of that group who appear to be thinking only of what suits themselves without considering the good of the whole community. But however, there are wider implications than a discussion about traffic. It's about the economic well-being of North Norfolk. We've handed into the council a petition with 287 signatures asking for the car park to be kept open. 239 of these collected at the Hill House pub, not to be disregarded just because not all the signees live in Haysborough. Our tourists bring in a huge amount of wealth to this area. They need car parks, shops and places to eat. Without the car park, the village will die commercially. Visitors keep our local shop and pub going. Without a new access track to the car park, Haysborough and North Norfolk will be impoverished. Yes, some people don't like change, but in Haysborough, it's being forced on us by coastal erosion, and we just have to grit our teeth and get on with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Thomas Love.
Thank you. We were all taught at school about the bell at Eccles and Dunwich Church disappearing into the sea. That's going to happen at Walcott faster than I thought possible 6 months ago. The amount of erosion that has occurred has been massive. It's going to become a national topic, the church falling into the sea. Now, it's not going to hit you now, it's going to hit in 10 years' time, 20 years' time. I don't know about how fast the erosion is going to be. But there will be an awful lot of interest on that subject. Also with the lighthouse, that will also be falling into the sea in the longer term. I believe a lot of people will want to come. Now, I don't think the people of Haysborough want to have cars parked everywhere. They want, in my view, the majority want a car park that is ideally situated near the beach and has a toilet block and a play area, all things that are needed to keep the village of Haysborough running from the income that they incur. So I hope that you will vote for this, bearing in mind that we've been discussing this matter for probably 10 years, certainly 8. And for people to say that there's no democracy in it, they have come to 1 or 2 parish council meetings, but there have been open meetings and parish council meetings about this subject so many times it gets boring. But this isn't a boring matter, it's an essential matter that we have a car park that is able to allow people onto the beach. Now, I know the erosion at the moment is fast, and we do need the slipway cut.
but unless you have a car park, you aren't going to be able to get down to Cutler Slipway with the diggers and everything. How are the diggers going to get there? It's all a massive matter of infrastructure and all these other things. So with that, I would like to just please let us have a car park. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last supporting speaker, Clive Stockton.
I've been a resident of Haysborough for coming up to 33 years. And for my sins, I own the pub in the village, which is one of the next 4 heritage assets which will be lost to the sea. The church, the pub, St Mary's, which is an arts and crafts house, and the lighthouse are all roughly on the same line. So we all know that that is there, and we all live with it. Now, nearly 10 years ago, government money through Pathfinder enabled us to carry out a number of projects in Haysborough and elsewhere. Trimmingham got a new parish hall, Cromer got a lot of its coastal walks reinstated. In Haysborough, it enabled us to have the car park, public toilets, and to continue with the beach access. The arguments then were, if we don't do something, then Haysborough will die economically. And those arguments still stand. The car park has been successful. Its income has supported, as the chairman of the parish council said, it supported the council tax in Haysborough. It's also supported all the local clubs, things like the church rooms, the Wen Evans Centre, which is our village hall, the playing fields, all those have had support from the income from the car park. If we turn our back on that now, then Haysborough sadly will see the beginning of its demise a lot quicker than the sea will create. We will end up with a village with no access to a lot of it. Also, as has already been said, we see this from the COVID period, people will still come to Haysborough, they'll just dump their cars in people's drives and all over the place. The car park is essential if Haysborough is going to have, in its dying years, is going to have an economy which makes sense for the local community. As I say, I have a vested interest, I have the pub, so when I see what happens in the village with people when COVID closed our car park, I had a pub with no customers because people filled my car park and disappeared down the beach. So people still come to the village. They'll cause chaos unless we, as Thomas Lovett said, unless we organise for them to park properly and sensibly. And at the same time, the income from that will support the activities of the village over the next however many years we've got, probably 20 at the most. But at least we'll have time then to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, the local member, Councillor Patterson, is unable to join the meeting, but has sent in a written statement. Which,
yeah, thank you, Chair.
read it.
So where I say I, that is Councillor Patterson, not me. Access to the beach car park is currently via Beach Road. Beach Road is hard up against the properties on Beach Road, with some front doors only being 12 metres from the road. By moving the access to the rear of the properties, the track to the car park is up to 90 metres away, which seems a sensible proposal. We need to keep these relatively cheap family days out and access to the beach for well-being, general health and fitness, which includes dog walking. And by keeping this car park open, we are doing so. I've lost count of the days as family we have used this car park. There's a great playground and fossil hunting on the beach, all of which cost the parking fee. For example, this car park is only 6 miles from Dillham, 14 minutes in a car. It is not possible to get to the bus there and back in a day, meaning car and car park are both a necessity, as is often the case in rural Norfolk. What's the alternative? Where do cars park if this rollback scheme is not allowed? With the beach good for fossil hunting due to the ongoing erosion and one of the UK's most known lighthouses, Happisburgh is a destination for locals and holidaymakers alike. Not surprising when you add the oldest evidence of human occupation anywhere in the UK was also discovered here. The street has no double yellow lines, therefore the parking issue will be compounded along this stretch of road. I believe this scheme is the part of living with the transitional coastline. While it may not suit everyone, I believe Happisburgh Parish Council have put a viable option in front of us. The scheme also boasts a 40% BNG. I support the officer's recommendation to approve this rollback scheme.
Thank you. Before we move on, Councillor Blathwaite, the portfolio holder for the coast, is in attendance. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, if I may, Chairman. I would just like to say, to ease your decision today, I will point out that you've already voted for it. You voted for it on May the 14th, in principle. You voted for it again in our corporate plan, in principle. Today is the day when principle turns to rolling up your sleeves and getting involved. And this is what this scheme is all about. I've heard today that it's undemocratic. I'll point out to you that those in favour of the scheme are democratically or elected members of the parish council and of the district council. Indeed, we are following the local plan on page 7. If you look at SD 11 and SD 12, it outlines perfectly what this scheme is all about. So, as I say, ladies and gentlemen, fellow councillors, we have already voted for this in principle twice. I would just say that I have recently stayed in a picture perfect village in the Cotswolds. It's on loads of biscuit tins and chocolate boxes. It isn't a patch on Happisburgh. The reason it's not a patch on Happisburgh is because it didn't have a car park. There was bins unemptied because bin lorries had been unable to access the village. The pub ran dry of beer because the drayman couldn't access the village because of visitor car parking chaos. And we need a car park in Happisburgh. Not only do we need a car park in Happisburgh for visitors and the visitor pound to support Happisburgh, we also need a car park in Happisburgh so we can continue managing the erosion on the beach in a safe manner, protecting our visitors and using equipment that requires the ramp and access from that car park. So the car park is doubly important. And I would say the message we would give to Happisburgh is that we are abandoning it. It would indicate abandoning an important seaside village in North Norfolk. And you owe it to that village, you owe it to the parish council, you owe it to the officers at Coastal, you owe it fundamentally to the British people that you support this scheme and roll back this car park to a sensible place with sensible access, aiding connectivity, allowing for a future coastal path as the erosion carries on. Please support this scheme. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Blathwaite. couple of personal observations. Not that I know Haysborough fairly well, having grown up there. I visited the car park only last week, and you know, there's about 4 meters between the entrance and the current edge of the cliff. I did wonder whether I would actually get the car out of it again without trying to cross rough fields. But so one more storm, that could happen at any time. The number we've had so far this winter, autumn and winter, that access could be lost. So I think just from observation, this, you know, the decision is urgent, whichever way it goes. Given the urgency, I just wonder whether some of the conditions might be softened. For example, relating to the connection of the network be prior to first use, submission of details of the off-site works. So we have the knowledge, but we can proceed without them being fully approved. 12 months to actually approve those conditions, perhaps, and deliver the off-site works prior to any first use of new rollback spaces as opposed to the existing car park. Also wonder whether we could members could just see exactly where these parking places will be. Thank you.
Yeah, I think those obviously very important questions. And if members were minded to approve, I can certainly understand why that would be a key consideration. The recommendation put before you is well, includes those highway conditions, and pretty much all of them are either prior to commencement or prior to first use of the access and facility as a whole. We acknowledged also that our recommendation put to you already has some phasing within it. We expect that the new car parking spaces would potentially be delivered, but not brought into use until such time as the existing spaces were rendered unsafe. I think ultimately any connection back into the network is going to have to be approved, and the details are going to have to, we're going to have to be sure that those details are acceptable to highway standards prior to us opening the access track. There probably would be scope for moving forward to look at phasing and ensure that submission of technical details about off-site works was submitted in a timely manner, perhaps prior to the first use of any access. An approval of those details was sought and submitted to us within maybe a 12-month window. As we've said, we do have that phasing already in this scheme with the opening of the spaces. So it perhaps could be the case that those spaces were only delivered once off-site works were delivered to the satisfaction of ourselves as well. So I think that's within members' powers to discuss, and there certainly is scope, and we can have a look at making sure that if there is a recommendation to approve, that is considered properly. In terms of the location of the passing bays, I may need Michelle's help a little bit on this one, but they will be going to they will be along the section of Lighthouse Lane from the south of the car park access here, before we get to this corner. So I believe something sort of equidistance. I can't remember exactly from the topographical survey exactly where they are, but I believe they're on the eastern side and would probably be sort of equally spaced there to provide you know, enough notice to actually see oncoming vehicles. There's no passing places provided to the north because of the carriageway widening section along the site frontage.
Okay, thank you. Over to members. Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members. I'm going to be a little bit boring and possibly a little bit repetitive, because I am going to talk a little bit about the history here. I'm aware that there's quite a lot of new members in the council chamber today. For my sins, I have been a member here for over 20 years. And I have been a resident of North Norfolk for 63 years. So I sort of know a little bit about what's going on. Now, we have heard from several speakers this morning, and it's not often I agree with Mrs. Redling, but Bryony and I have an issue every now and then and discuss things that are going along the coast. But I do think she gave a very, very good presentation this morning, as did, of course, previous Councillor Stockton. Now then, during the 90s, Haysborough Village was suffering a severe attack of blight. It was run down. There was lack of investment to properties, purely and simply because they could see they had no future due to the rate of coastal erosion. In 2010s, we were given a bit of a future with the Pathfinder investment from central government. And this included the car park and tidying up the destruction where we had to take down something like, I think, 11 properties that were about to fall off Beach Road. But the car park income has actually boosted the economy locally. It's given a future to the school. It has given access down to the beach. It has put the caravan in a safe caravan site in a safer place. It has given a future to the pub and the shop. Now, currently, without this car park, we are actually likely to lose everything the good parts of Pathfinder gave Haysborough. They could perhaps lose their future. So, and I would tell every member in this room, not only are we responsible to our residents, but we are also responsible for the future, the benefit of North Norfolk. This is an application some 15 years approximately from the original Pathfinder application, which of course was made by North Norfolk District Council ourselves. This is a planning application from the parish council. And one of the things I did pick up from one of the previous speakers, I think it was the first speaker, is actually national planning policies do not necessarily consider coastal erosion. And through the local government special interest group, this is something we are hoping to address. Now, I do so hope that members will support this application today for the future of Haysborough, because there won't be a Haysborough in 10 years' time, as we know it, if we don't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So are you proposing acceptance of the recommendations?
Most certainly.
Thank you. Councillor Varley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would just like to thank the case officer for his fantastic report, and also for all public speakers today, no matter what side of the argument they are on. I think this is a really important fundamental application, so it's important to get those facts and opinions. This will affect the community of Haysborough. And I think this scheme is fundamental in ensuring that we manage coastal erosion and ensure that this community can continue to thrive and have that essential facility, which is the car park. I think it's quite clear after the varied discussions that this car park is essential for tourism. The tourists will use this facility. It's a safe, distinct place for them to park, which will ensure that they're not using the narrow country lanes, but also from that, the income then goes back into the community, which is so important. In regards of the highways concerns, I feel quite confident with the mitigations we've heard this morning. I think the widening of the roads, the passage points, those would seem adequate. And I'm really encouraged by the condition of having new hedgerows and trees. I think that's really important to ensure biodiversity. So I'm very much accepting of this scheme, and I am happy to second this proposal, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Toy, John Toy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I spoke on this last time. I can't get round the irony. I accept the rollback. I accept the plans that we have, but here the first thing that we're really dealing with in terms of rollback is a car park so that people can come and look at the damage that cars are doing. And I just struggle with that irony. We've not even put in an electric vehicle charging point in there. So I support the concept of having the car park, but I just struggle with that irony that the reason we're having to move the car park is because 20% of global emissions come from cars. And so, you know, I would probably end up abstaining because I support the locals and I support what they need, but there's a real irony in where the world is going. And I just feel I need to put that in there because as we move forward, we need to understand what's causing this. And what we're doing, the first thing we're doing is propagating that cause. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I'm under no illusions that this is a really important application for the village in Haysborough. It's as a a once in a generation type planning application, and I'd like to thank the speakers who have attended today and contributed to a meaningful debate. I think what we do need to recognise is that a central car park, as opposed to a peripheral car park, or to exaggerate the point, a park and ride scheme, is not what Haysborough needs. I think there's almost an expectation that a nationally, if not regionally, recognised tourist attraction in the lighthouse should have a car park reasonably close to it. And I don't know if we've got statistics on what attracts people into Haysborough, but I suspect that the lighthouse is pretty high up on that list of priorities if we had one. And I think this also demonstrates another feature in planning in planning terms, and that is that a lot of the heat could have been taken out of this debate, and dare I say, don't want to be provocative, far less NIMBYism on the part of some residents if they had actually looked at having a neighbourhood plan in Haysborough. And a neighbourhood plan would have consulted far earlier in the process with residents, and a plan could have been instituted through a neighbourhood plan for a future car park if that had been undertaken. So I just want to make that point. And I think last July, when we looked at this, I was one of those members who said we need to defer it because I'm not happy about the arrangements for access along Lighthouse Lane with its two junctions. And I know that we've addressed the junction with Beach Road with better signage. We've addressed the congestion issue by providing two pull-ins and possibly a third, if that can be arranged with the relevant landowner. But I'm not sure that we've addressed the issue of the substandard junction between Lighthouse Lane and Whipwell Street, which was one of the issues highlighted last July. Now, I'm not sure if that's considered still relevant by highways engineers or not, but I just note that it seems to be something missing that we did highlight at last July. But it's a difficult vote to take this one, but on balance, I think that the disturbance that residents on Beach Road have suffered for years with vehicles passing so close to their front doors, when compared to the relatively minor section of residents in Lighthouse Lane who will be now affected when the car park is truly resited, when the existing one closes, I think is pertinent to what is being considered here, and therefore I'm quite happy to support the officer's recommendation for approval, Chair.
Thank you. Could I ask the Baron just to comment on the highways issue? I mean, from my point of view, I can't see any significant increase in traffic will impact on Beach Road, Whipwell Street. But the layout of Lighthouse Lane, Beach Road, I still think, as you're saying, there may be some issues there.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. The junction in question is the one to the south where Lighthouse Lane connects with Wimpwell Street. I think from the outset, the one of the key strategies with this scheme was to ensure that traffic generally turns right and tries to continue using the Lighthouse Lane, Beach Road, and then Wimpwell Street route. That remains with the carriageway widening and the encouragement signage. I don't think too significant a consideration was given to improvements that could be made at Lighthouse Lane and Wimpwell Street Junction. We're not anticipating, encouraging a drastic change to traffic behaviours there. And with the provision of passing places along Lighthouse Lane, we are confident that generally the improvement works to the network are sufficient.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say from personal observation that leaving Lighthouse Lane onto Wimpwell Street at the southern end, visibility is probably better than coming out of Beach Road. So that's personal observation. Others may disagree. Do I have any further members wishing to speak? Okay, we have proposer, Councillor Fitch-Tillett, seconder, Councillor Varley. Can we go to the vote, please, Laura?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Adams. Councillor Beattie.
For.
Councillor Bayes.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Fisher.
For.
Councillor Fitch-Tillett. For. Councillor Hankins.
For.
Councillor Heinrich.
For.
Councillor MacDonald.
For.
Councillor Mancini Boyle.
For.
Councillor Neverway.
For.
Councillor John Toy.
Abstain.
Councillor Kim Toy. For. Councillor Varley. So that is 13 votes for, 1 abstention. The vote is carried.
Okay, the application is approved. Thank you. We move on to item 2. It's agenda item 9 on your agenda. Walcott PF 23/2259. Some members will remember in the past that we are revisiting this site, having approved some development there previously. When you're ready. When you're ready, then.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. So application reference PF/23/2259, land on Holston Road, Walcott is on page 49 of the agenda. The proposal consists of the development of 23 dwellings with associated access, parking and landscaping. So members of the Development Committee, I'd like to inform you that updated plans which seek to address highways concerns have been submitted to the Council on Tuesday, the 9th of January. These include the following: single access point for the surround dwellings, realigned footpath to the road, visitor parking relocated, visibility displays added, turning heads added, traffic calming measures added, and flat blocks relocated to be separate. The drawings have been included in the presentation and the Highways Authority have provided comments. The relevant planning conditions in the Development Committee report would also be revised accordingly. Moreover, the Council has been informed that the Fire Department requested that the fire hydrant requirement needs to be a condition rather than it be included in Section 106 legal agreement. So planning permission reference PF4/201582 was granted in February 2022 for the development of 18 dwellings with associated access, parking and landscaping, remains extant and is a material consideration in the determination of the planning application. The site lies in Walcott within an area designated as countryside. The proposal falls under the category of affordable housing in accordance with the Council's rural exception site policy, which is a type of development that is acceptable in principle in this location. The site is situated 1.3 kilometers from Bacton, which is a coastal service village and the closest defined settlement. As the application site is not within 100 meters of the defined settlement, the proposal is not fully compliant with criteria 2 of policy HO3. Regarding criteria 3 of policy HO3, it is considered as subject to the tenure of the proposed housing being secured through a Section 06 agreement. The proposal will comply with the requirements of criteria 3 of policy HO3. While the scheme is not fully compliant with criteria 2 of policy HO3, it is considered that previous planning permission could still be implemented. This is the previous planning permission that was granted in February 2022. Here are some site photos of the site in its context. The proposal comprises of 8 one-bedroom flats, 2 one-bedroom bungalows, 8 two-bedroom houses, 4 three-bedroom houses, and 1 three-bedroom house. From those, 10 dwellings have 50 square meters of internal floor space and incorporate 1 bedroom. Equally, 6 dwellings are also suitable or easily adaptable for occupation by the elderly, infirm, or disabled. The strategic housing team supports the application, given that the mix of property sizes reflects the mix of local housing need. The scheme's boundary treatments comprise of 1.8 meter high closed bordered timber fencing. Previous landscape comments and the previous planning permission stated that the use of closed boarding fencing should be avoided and a mix of native hedging used as much as possible to assist in reinstatement of lost hedgerows within this landscape character area. As such, it is required that boundary treatments be secured through condition to incorporate hedging into the designs, which it has been made. All trees can be retained and protected throughout the works. All buildings, garages, hard standing surfaces, and drives have been positioned outside the root protection areas of adjacent trees. The landscape team considered that there will be minimal impact on the trees within the site. The proposed development predominantly falls outside Epoch 3 of the coastal erosion constraints area, with only the car parking spaces of dwellings number 18 situated within Epoch 3. The coastal partnership team have raised no objection to the proposal. The site has been split into 2 sections, north and south. Access to the north section would be from Hoston Road to the west. All plots are designed to have required parking spaces relative to the size of the dwellings, and these are within the curtilage of the properties. There is also large public of open space, which breaks the field form. The windows will be dark gray aluminium throughout the development. The dwellings will have combinations of red brick work and dark gray fiber cement, cladding to the first floor, and roof tiles in red or black to maintain a variety. The Conservation Design Officer neither objects to nor supports the application on the basis that they consider the proposal would not enhance the overall character and appearance of the area. So while the proposal would not enhance the character of the area, on balance, it would not give rise to significant design concerns. So these are the elevations and plans of proposed dwellings. The proposed dwellings are situated in excess of 30 meters of existing dwellings. Therefore, they comply with the recommended distances set out in the design guide. The drawings demonstrate the location of the refuge and storage points. Moreover, the proposed amenities areas of the dwellings are of generous sizes and are larger than their footprint. The proposal provides approximately 1,100 square meters of amenity green space, which is sufficient to comply with the open space requirements of 404 square meters. In accordance with the open space requirements, the proposed development should provide for 40.40 square meters of on-site play space. Given that none is provided on-site play space provision will have to be secured through a Section 106 legal agreement. Regarding off-site financial contributions toward the other types of open space, these will be secured through Section 106 legal agreement. The proposed development has dwellings facing north and south with habitable rooms facing south to benefit from solar gains. The use of air source heat pumps and roof-mounted solar photovoltaic panels will also be installed to reduce energy consumption. The development will have to demonstrate that at least 10% of predicted total energy usage will be generated on site via renewable energy technologies. Planning conditions will be required to secure this, and they have been. The heritage assets closest to the application site are the Grade 2 listed the Malthouse Farm, which is situated 380 meters to the west, and Grade 1 listed All Saints Church, which is located 650 meters to the southwest. By virtue of the separation distance of the application site to the listed buildings, it is considered that the proposal will not give rise to significant heritage concerns. An updated preliminary ecological appraisal has been submitted with the application. No potential issues in relation to protected species were identified. The landscape section considers that at least one integrated Swift box brick per dwelling will be expected as part of the overall enhancement package. And integrated back bricks tubes should be included in 20 to 25% of dwellings. Officers considered in relation to matters concerning biodiversity, these will be secured through planning conditions. In relation to GRAMs, the proposed development will create 23 net new dwellings, requiring a financial contribution of £4,849.32, which have to be secured with Section 106 legal agreement. The flood risk assessment provided with the application states that the site layout has been designed to minimize the impact of the floods if it were to occur. Most of the dwellings are located within the higher part of the sites. All proposed finished floor levels are a minimum of 300 millimeters above that of the expected water level. The surface water drainage system, which comprises of the attenuation basin, is designed to fully accommodate surface water from the development. Upstream flooding of the site would be directed towards the roads and permeable drives and into the detention basins for storage. Excess of water from the site are proposed to be directed away from the dwellings and into the on-site ditch. An exception has been made for the exceedance flows of nearby plots 19 to 23, which demonstrate the conveyance of water away from Austin Road and towards the proposed permeable paving, since the ground levels and permeable paving within this area form part of the drainage system. Foul sewer connection is proposed to the existing angling water network. Angling water have indicated that they can accommodate the site discharge flows. Moreover, given the foul water would connect to Munsley, which discharged outside of the catchment of the River Bure, this development would not be caught by nutrient neutrality. As the site comprises agricultural land, there is a potential for contamination by previous land use and other factors such as filled land due to the nature of agricultural methods. Subject to a condition that secures investigation and remediation of potential contaminated land, the proposed development will be considered acceptable. In terms of lighting, subject to the imposition of a condition that secures external lighting, the proposed development will be considered acceptable. In terms of highway matters, Norfolk County Council recommends this application be refused due to location of the state scale development in an unsuitable location, inadequate information regarding the off-site highway improvements, and due to provision of the southern access onto an improved substandard section of highway. The revised layout plan does not address any of these issues, so this has been stated by Highways Authority. So the Highways Authority is also of the opinion that while visibility displays have been shown on the western and southern accesses, it is unclear whether they are achievable within the application boundary and public highway from the southern access. No change has been made to the alignment of the access road, which remains long and straight and will not constrain vehicle speeds to the required level of a 20-mile-per-hour zone. The addition of a single build-out will have negligible impact on vehicle speeds. The proposed visitor parking remains poorly located. And finally, the two blocks of one-bedroom dwellings are being separated. However, plots 7 to 10 could be swapped with plots 5 and 6 and a lay-by located at the eastern end of the public open space to reduce the likelihood of on-street parking further and address poor location of visitor parking. While the turning head at the end of the state's road appears to be of the correct dimensions, it has to be tracked by a large refuge vehicle. The size 5 turning area has been provided as requested. So these comments are comments from Highways, subsequent to the drawings that have been updated by the agent from Flagship. So Highways commented on those drawings, and these are their comments. In terms of officer comments to Highway comments, officers are of the opinion that while it is acknowledged that additional traffic on these narrow roads will lead to an increase in traffic and an increase in pedestrians utilizing roads without footpaths, the traffic in this area is limited, and officers consider that on balance will not likely result in an acceptable impact on highway safety, nor would the residual cumulative impacts on the road network will be considered severe, as set out in paragraph 115 of the NPPF. A condition could be secured to ensure there is a traffic regulation order placed on this part of Austin Road, which would reduce the speed of traffic to 20 miles per hour. This would significantly increase highway safety along this stretch of the highway, and while this would not overcome the objection of the Highway Authority, would, in the opinion of officers, create a betterment to the highway network in this area. Officers consider that while there is a departure policy D5, the proposal is not considered to be contrary to paragraph 115 of the NPPF, which is a material consideration on the termination of the application. Moreover, consideration should also be given to previous plan information that resulted in similar highway concerns, albeit for a lesser number of dwellings. And lastly, the Norfolk County Council has set out the requirements that would need to be addressed in order to make the development acceptable in sustainable terms through the delivery of necessary infrastructure. The funding of this infrastructure will be through planning obligations and conditions, along with the council's requirement for the GRAMs, open space, and affordable housing. So these are the key issues of the application. And the recommendation of the application is to be approved subject to Section 106 obligation, the imposition of conditions listed on page 70 and or any considered necessary by the Assistant Director, and that the application be refused if a suitable Section 106 agreement is not completed within 4 months of the date of resolution to approve. And in the opinion of the Assistant Director, there is no realistic prospect of a suitable Section 106 agreement being completed within a reasonable timescale. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Very thorough. Okay, I have no town and parish speaker, no objecting speaker, one supporting speaker, Charlotte Powell.
I'm Graham Connolly, Strategic Housing Manager. Charlotte Powell was here. Unfortunately, due to childcare commitments, she had to leave before she had the opportunity to speak. But she said what she wanted to do is just comment on the changes which Bruno has covered in his presentation. So I think what she had to say has been covered by Bruno.
Okay, thank you. Local member is Councillor Porter. Ah, hiding over there. Yeah, explain from there, Councillor.
I support this application in principle, but I do have a few concerns about the necessary infrastructure. There's only one parking space allocated to each of the flats and only 4 visitor parking spaces on the whole site from what I can see. And will the new development have a detrimental impact on water pressure and electricity supply to the nearby coastline village? There have been unsubstantiated comments that water pressure is low and power outages are common. And how likely is it that the water storage area on site will overflow? That's it.
Okay, thank you. Russell, you want to come in?
Yeah, I will leave my colleague to comment on those last observations by Councillor Porter. Just wanted to make one minor correction to the recommendation. The case officer said at the start that the fire hydrants part of it needs to move from the Section 106 components to the condition part of the list, which is a slight change to what is written. And we also need to update all the drawing numbers to the correct set. Your authority, if you go with the recommendation, does give me the ability to change the condition, but just want to note the fire hydrants point for the avoidance of any doubt. Still there, but in the different part of the approval process.
Thank you. Bruno, are you going to comment on the issues raised by Councillor Porter?
In relation to water pressure, officers are of the opinion that that is not a planning matter that we could address. All the issues in terms of flooding and also issues in terms of connections to Anglian Water and any other matters have been addressed in the reports. Water pressure, again, like I said, is not something that we have control on. It's a matter that Anglian Water needs to look into. From Anglian Water perspective, we haven't received an objection.
Is the parking, I take it, is considered adequate within our normal policies?
Pardon?
The parking provision within the site?
Yes, in terms of the parking provision, it has been covered in our policies. It is compliant with our policies. Obviously, there is some concerns from highways that the location of the visitor parking was away from the flats, was not located in probably the most suitable location closer to the flats. But overall, in terms of parking arrangements, it complies with policy.
Thank you. Councillor Blathwaite, given that just the corner tips the 100-year current flood line.
I have no real comment to make regarding this. It is outside the coastal protection area. It is land, using land that is basically infill of an existing site. We have no objection from coastal to this application.
Okay, thank you. Over to members, I can just switch to that.
Yeah, I note that you were requesting comments from Coast. I can see why there is a query there, but the shoreline management plan that we're currently using, although it's due for refresh, was actually produced in the early 2000s, so it's well and truly new for refresh. It does show, it was actually published well before the sandscaping project, which was put on the beach to protect not just the gas site, but also the parishes of Bacton and Walcott. But that is to buy time for approximately 20 years. Now, this is going to give the communities their time to adapt. And I am aware, when I had my previous hat on, I was asked to Walcott Parish Council to discuss and assist them with their adaptation plans. So I don't think any member in this room needs to concern themselves with that, particularly it's a very, very small corner of somebody's parking space. Thank you. I'm happy to propose for approval if you wish me to, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I think the sandscaping scheme has certainly worked very effectively. It's a huge amount of sand protecting the base of the cliffs along the whole Ostend section beyond the revetments. So it's doing its job. It's very positive. Councillor McDonald, sorry, I can see you over there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Bruno, for a very thorough report. I would like to second Councillor Fitzgerald. I think we need affordable housing. Thank you.
That's a toy.
As you would expect, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I am. I'm in support of the application. We were going to put affordable housing on here, but a mix before. So yeah, I'm happy to support it. However, I would like to make comment in that here we go again. A developer came along with a scheme that was they were all going to be zero carbon houses, with none of them in the 100-year epoch. The energy consumption, which has been raised, would have been less because there would have been smaller heat pumps just for hot water. The house didn't need energy. They'd have been built off site, whereas now we're going to use brick. So I just get disappointed that we have these things brought to us and then they get sold off and rolled back. These could have been built, you know, it's been what, 2 years since the original application. So I just needed to voice that disappointment that it feels like, yes, we need the houses. I'm happy to support the application, but we really need to get developers to deliver on what they're promising to us in the first place. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm quite happy to support this application. I noticed from the report, which is an excellent report, by the way, and thank you for your presentation, Bruno, this morning, that there are some challenges to policy, HO3, challenges to highways recommendations, but I think on balance, we need affordable housing. I'd like to see a little bit more carbon saving in terms of solar panels and charging points. I don't know if that's, I was looking at the papers and I couldn't see anything there. Perhaps I've missed it. And just on page 67, under the section regarding the Section 106 agreement, monitoring fee, I think it says at the bottom, monitoring charge would normally be payable on commencement. Can we strengthen that? Can we not say must be paid on commencement? Bottom of page 67, Your Honour. Yeah. You'll dictate that. We don't really have any say in that. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Senior. I'll come to you. Councillor Hankins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, fantastic to see affordable houses in total. This is brilliant. Just a couple of things. You know what I'm going to say. It's such a pity again, we haven't got passive housing, because affordable housing to me means it's affordable for people to live in. Unless they're passive, I don't think we're going far enough. And the second point I'd like to make, I'm really glad on page 77, appendix 24A, that we're doing a surface water management strategy to be submitted before the houses are actually built. So I'm glad that's actually in place, because quite often they build a house and they find that they can't take the flood waters from the estate. So I'm glad that's actually in there. Thank you.
The land is surprisingly wet up there as well. And certainly would agree with those speakers on the need for passive house standards rather than well, to currently get away with. It's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. Councillor Hankin. Well, that's the problem. Councillor Hankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I support the proposal, particularly based on the fact that we have a national and a local shortage of affordable housing. I have one comment to make in terms of foul water. The comment is that the proposal will fall in the area of the Mumsbury Water Recycling Centre. There were problems in that centre earlier last year with flooding. Anglian Water made a presentation, and the presentation they made, I wasn't confident that they really got a grip on this. So could I ask the officer, has he had adequate assurance that this will be possible?
Thank you, Councillor Orange. So on the planning officer reports, on the section 10 flood risk, there is a paragraph about foul water. And the last paragraph says that Anglian Water confirmed that the development is within the catchment of the Mumsbury Water Recycling Centre and has the capacity to serve the needs of the proposed development. And also says that given the discharges, sorry, apologies. That's all I wanted to say. So Anglian Water stated to us that it has capacity to take the flows from the development.
Suggest they would say that, wouldn't they? Given our prior experience with our friends at Anglian Water, we have huge confidence in their statements. If anybody else wish to come in which case we'll go to the vote. Proposer, Councillor Fitch-Tillett, seconded by Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Adams. Councillor Beattie.
Strongly for.
Councillor Bathe.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Fisher. Councillor Fitch-Tillett. Councillor Hankins. Councillor Heinrich.
For.
Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Mancini Boyle. Councillor Neverway.
For.
Councillor John Toy.
For.
Councillor Kim Toy. And Councillor Varley. That is unanimous, 14 votes for.
Thank you. The application is approved.
Thank you all for your time, members. Thank you, Chairman.
You're happy in housing with that? Right. It is 11 o'clock. We have another 4 applications to go, some of which ought to be straightforward. I suggest we'll take 15 minutes now and get in for the section. So we'll adjourn until 11:15. Yeah. committee of head teachers in front of me. That was the worst, but okay, well, we're on now. We are live. Okay, we will move to the next item then. Your agenda, item 10 on the papers. That's Sheringham. It's a revision to the apartment hotel that we approved not long ago. Barrow, would you please present?
Thank you very much again, Chair. Yes, as you said, this is a proposed variation to conditions relating to the hotel on land east of the reef in Sheringham. So we'll just sort of prompt everyone's memory of the site and then look at the changes in particular. So it's this land here next to the reef development with the football club to the south and the golf club and the L149 to the north. Just some local context photos and the site as it sat in March 23. And again, just moving through along A149 there. You can see the approximate point of the new access, making use of the reef car park and the site again, sort of quite run down at the moment. And then the longer term viewpoint across the football pitch from the residential property, nearest residential properties to the south. The key components as have been approved and are not changing are on the screen at the moment and include the 37 suites broken down, as you can see, and 49 total car parking spaces. The main crux of the proposal that's put before you is a variation of condition 3 was the firstly requested by the applicant. This was essentially to allow the wording to be changed to remove just tourism uses only and allow hotel uses. We think that's reasonable, and we are recommending that variation be approved. Condition 5, it was proposed to be removed. We are not willing to do that or amend that. Condition 5 is tied closely to business rates and refers to 140 days letting. And we think that condition should remain. Condition 6 and 7 were both quite closely linked, and I think it was 31 days or 28. I do forget, unfortunately, but they were about how long individuals can stay in the units, and overall we're about retaining control as a council and making sure that we stay within the C1 use that was permitted and just having that little bit more control. On reflection, the proposal from the applicant was to remove those conditions. We don't think removal is appropriate, but we do think slightly loosening that restriction up to 56 days is appropriate in this case, just to enable things like perhaps a full school holidays and a half term or something like that. So the overall recommendation is as sort of is on screen and detailed in the report. So condition 3 would be varied as per the application. Condition 5 would not be altered at all, despite what the application proposes, and conditions 6 and 7 would be slightly loosened in their restriction up to 56 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have no town parish speaker, no objecting speaker, no supporting speaker. Don't believe I can see local members in the room. They don't have a notification of any statement from local members.
No, none received.
Thank you. So into debate. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy to propose acceptance of the officer's recommendation on this. And in saying that, I'd like to thank the legal team and the planning officers getting together and sorting this out. I think the report is very clearly set out as well. So thank you for that. I think I'm quite happy to vote in favour of it, Chair. Don't see really any issues here.
Thank you. Councillor Littleway.
Yeah, I too would like to second what Councillor's just said, and I'm happy to second the officer's approval.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this? In which case we go to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Adams. Councillor Beattie. Councillor Bayes. Councillor Brown. Councillor Fisher. Councillor Fitch-Phillip. Councillor Hankins. Councillor Heinrich. Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Mancini Boyle. Councillor Nebaway. Councillor John Toy. Councillor Kim Toy. and councillor Varley. That's unanimous, 14 votes for.
Okay, that is approved. We move on to agenda item 11, Binham PF/23/1513, which is an amendment to a design on a previously approved site. Okay. When you're ready, Jamie.
Good morning. This application proposes an erection of a two-storey dwelling, which is an amendment to a previously approved design scheme in 2015, 2019, and they resubmitted the 2019 in terms of the size and scale and design to a 2022 scheme. So in effect, there is an extant scheme on the site. Thank you. Yeah, the site, its location along in the Walsingham and Binham, along Walsingham and Binham, and it's an extant plot, and it adjoins and formed what was part of a housing scheme for 28 dwellings, which gained permission in 2015. Essentially, the scheme is considering design changes only, so I thought it'd be useful just to provide a comparison of what they could build against what they are proposing. So on the left, you've got the 2019 and 2022 permission. Essentially, it's still a 4-bedroom detached dwelling. It's a slightly bigger footprint. There are changes to design, and it's now got an attached garage, and it's broadly in the same position. As you can see, elevationally, it's proposing sort of increased brick and flint, as opposed to sort of just brick, or as on the left. And it's more of a 3-bay design in elevations. Yeah, again, the east and west elevation are broadly comparable, albeit the sort of attached garage you can see on the east elevation on the proposed. And again, floor plans, it's internal reconfiguration, slightly larger, not really too much difference in terms of sort of general scale. I think if you flick to the next one, it's just the first floor. Again, what you've got is a sort of instead of a 2-storey gable rear at the back, you've got a sort of slightly single-storey element, which adds variety. And key elements of the proposal are obviously on the screen, and the office report pages 107 to 112 detail the detailed office report. There are no, the application was subject to extensive negotiation discussion with the agent, which all the sort of the concerns raised by officers and the conservation design officer were negotiated out. Essentially, there's no consulting objections to the application or officer objections. And so flip the next one. And just in terms of just a viewpoint, really, there's 3. They all come from sort of looking to the south, obviously from Walsingham Road, but you've got an existing plot set amongst residential development, sort of a chair boundary hedge to the east. So flick to the edge, it's just 3. So with an extant permission in effect. Next one, yeah, and recommendation as per the screen. There's a number of conditions. The materials, flint samples, joinery, highways. And the presentation is concluded.
Thank you. Certainly, from the information we've been given, it's a rather better design and better fit for the area. But, we have no parish speaker, no objecting speaker, 1 supporting speaker, Mr. Jordan Cribb from Vertex Architecture. If you come to the microphone, please.
Should have worked that one out. Good morning, Chairman and members. Thank you for allowing me to speak at today's Development Committee meeting in support of this full planning application for a proposed 2-storey dwelling with garage in Binham. My name is Jordan Cribb, and I represent the applicant as their agent. I believe the context of this application is very important. As outlined within the officer's report, this parcel of land has previously had approval for a 2-storey dwelling on 2 separate occasions, one as recently as 2022. The application granted permission for a 2-storey 4-bedroom house. The application before you today is for the same, a 2-storey 4-bedroom house. Permission was first granted on this piece of land in 2016 and formed part of a development of 28 units. It is therefore clear that this site has history and previous permissions of a matching nature to what is before you today. We worked very closely with the planning department to overcome previous concerns relating to proposed dwelling size and potential impact on the conservation area. Therefore, what you see today is a result of a number of months, conversations and changes that have taken place following discussions with both the case officer and the applicant. We're pleased to say that both of these people are now happy with the proposal in its current form, hence the officer's recommendation of approval. Given the site's location within Binham Conservation Area, the dwelling has been designed to be sympathetic and in keeping with the conservation area. The conservation officer states that the amended scheme is acceptable with regards to its design, layout, scale and massing, and as such accords with core strategy policies. The proposal consists of a traditional palette of materials, including red brick, flint cobbles and clay pan tiles, to ensure that it is respectful to the conservation area. A small single car garage to the front is also proposed, and the dwelling itself is of typical proportions in terms of scale. We appreciate the councillors and parish council's concerns regarding design, size and massing. In our opinion, we of course feel that the proposal in front of you today represents a better quality of design than previously presented. Importantly, the height of the approved dwelling in 2022 application was 8.4 meters tall. The proposed dwelling before you today is actually 800 mil lower at 7.6 meters tall. The images shown, the levels aren't quite aligned as they should be. A couple of doors down from the application site, there are 3-story dwelling houses. So it is very much a mixed street scene. Whilst the footprint of this proposed dwelling is larger than the previous, this is because mainly of the garage, something that the previous application did not include. I'm sure we all agree that garage space in this part of the world is very important. Parish Council have concerns regarding potential overlooking. This has been comprehensively addressed by the case officer in their report, and I would like to further state that habitable room windows look into the proposed dwelling's own garden and not left nor right. The parish council state that the proposed dwelling extends beyond number 12. However, this is not the case, as you can see on the proposed plans. We are pleased that the parish council did not object to the new house design. We feel that whilst the dwelling will be different in appearance to the estate, it was, thank you.
Okay, the local member, Councillor Whittaker, for obvious reasons, cannot be with us today. Councillor Toll, you have a statement from her.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, as you say, Councillor Beautycoffer can't be with us for family reasons, but I've written this on her behalf, but with consultation with her and using notes from her emails and things to construct what I believe the principles were that she was calling in. But it is obviously her statement, and I sit on this committee still with an open view. I've based it on, as I say, on the consultation with her and reading comments on the application. Additionally, emails received from the parish council who are also unable to attend, stating that nothing to add to the comments against the application. So their application comments stand. This is namely about size and style of the building. The new estate was built to have 3 distinctive building types designed in a style from other properties in the conservation village. The previous applications on this plot took considerable work and negotiation to achieve a design and scale that would fit in. The current application undoes all that previous work and potentially makes an anomaly in the streetscape where it was felt to be more harmonious before. The scale of the new application is such that the line of the property, particularly to the rear, extends beyond its neighbour, with the new roof height making for a much imposing development. I think that's not about its physical height, but the fact it's all the same height, whereas before I believe there was differences. I note removal of certain development rights, which I believe is around windows, but ask the committee to consider if further restrictions to stop any further increases in scale should be included, or should you go with the officer's recommendation. In summary, I ask the committee to consider if the scale of this property in the street scheme, scene with a bungalow on one side and smaller properties around, are appropriate for this sensitive location. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Could you just bring up that street scene again, please, so we can see how it potentially sits in that? Yeah, and the others. Okay, that's fine. It just gives you another opportunity just to see what is around, so you can reach your own judgments. Okay, thank you. Over to members. Who wishes to start? Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, I'd just like to thank the case officer for the thorough report and presentation here today. I'm happy to propose the officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Chair, I'm quite happy to second the proposal. I'm pleased to see the improved design. Inclusion of brick and flint in conservation areas is always a good move. And I know there isn't really strong sort of opposition from the parish council, in fact, mild support in one sense. Conservation in design and highways have got no objections, so I think we can support this.
Thank you. Councillor Middleton.
Yeah, I'd just like to make the observation I've heard that the case officer has worked closely with the development of its property with the owner. And by working with them, they've achieved something which is very, very acceptable. And I think they've done a great job. They should be thanked. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Fisher.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. My initial thoughts were when I saw the drawings that that was an improvement on what we'd had previously, contrary to what we've just heard. So I'm happy to go along with the proposal.
Okay. Anybody else wishes to speak? Which goes to go for vote, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Adams. Councillor Beatty.
For.
Councillor Bayes. Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Fisher. Councillor Fitch-Tillett. For. Councillor Hankins. Councillor Heinrich.
For.
Councillor MacDonald.
For.
Councillor Mancini Boyle. Councillor Neverway.
For.
Councillor John Toy.
For.
Councillor Kim Toy. For. And Councillor Varley. That's unanimous, 14 votes for.
Okay, the application is approved. We move on to item 12 on the agenda. Morstan PF 23-1764. Surprisingly controversial, but you'll make up your minds. Oh, Councillor Neverway.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I probably should have announced this at the beginning, but I am a paid up member of the National Trust. So in that respect, I feel I should, if it's relevant, I should declare an interest in that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead when you're ready, Darryl.
Thank you, Chair. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Darryl Watson, one of the team leaders in development management. We're on item 12, starting on page 113 of the agenda, planning application 23-1764. The site is at the National Trust Information Centre, Key Lane, Morstan. It's for the use of the land for the stationing of a food and beverage trailer for no more than 56 days per annum for a temporary period of 5 years. There are a couple of minor updates to report to the report. Firstly, on page 117, following publication of the revised MPPF last month, chapter 12 of the MPPF is now titled Achieving Well-Designed and Beautiful Places. Secondly, on page 121, under the recommendation, 2 further conditions are proposed. They are to remove permitted development rights for the temporary use of the land and to limit the stationing of the trailer on the land to no more than 56 days in any calendar year. So turning to the presentation, this first slide shows a site marked with a red cross in the wider context. This shows next slide shows the location in more detail and shows it adjacent to the Morstan Quay car park. This is with the aerial overlaid, and we can see the car park, the areas to the north where boats are stored, and the lookout building where the existing small takeaway cafe and visitor information point are located. This slide shows the site in relation to adjacent designated areas, with the site itself located within the Norfolk Coast National Landscape, previously known as the AONB, and the Blakeney National Nature Reserve. This and the following 4 slides show the trailer when it was in situ early September last year. This first one is looking north from the car park. This one is looking from north. This is looking closer up, looking northeastwards. This is the on the approach along the coast path, looking southwestwards. This one is looking from southwards
in towards the car park from close to the lookout point. This is on the approach from the coast path, looking generally eastwards. This is close up at the front elevation of the trailer. This is one not taking in situ, just to show you what it's like when the serving hatch is open. This is a reminder of the main issues set out and considered on pages 117 to 120 of the agenda. And this is a recommendation to approve, subject to conditions. The two additional conditions are referred to at the beginning of the presentation are those in the red font. Thank you, Chair. That's the end of the presentation.
Thank you. I have a number of speakers on this one. We'll start with the parish speaker, Roberta Hammond, please.
Thank you. I'm Roberta Hammond, Vice Chair of Morstan Parish Council. Thank you very much for letting me speak today. Morstan Quay is a centuries-old entrance to the marsh and sea, and the Parish Council is committed to protecting and, where necessary, restoring its biodiversity and geology. There is already commercial disturbance on the quay that requires remediation before we consider adding more. The number of visitors to the quay has been estimated at 100,000 a year by the National Trust in its application. The Parish Council, local boat trips, and residents seriously question that number. And as of 2024, boat trips are restricted to run from May to October, leaving 5 months with lower footfall. But let's just focus on the 8 weeks of summer holidays, agreed to by all to be the busiest time of the year. We estimate 5 businesses running at a maximum capacity with no trips lost to bad weather or inconvenient tide timings could serve around 40,000 visitors. The reality is agreed it would be nearer 2/3 of that number, 26,000 people. To claim that the rest of the year could see up to 74,000 extra visitors is just not credible. And if it were true, would be hugely detrimental to our heavily protected and sensitive natural environment. That erroneous number must not automatically be taken as a carrot to justify commercial expansion. The current kiosk, run more efficiently, could serve the needs of many more boat trippers, especially if it opened at times that reflected the tides. We have been told by the boats that their customers regularly complain the kiosk is not open when they arrive for a trip. A few days ago, the Morstan Quay was empty and the kiosk closed, yet 3 bins outside that kiosk were overflowing. Luckily, 2 residents stopped by to pick up the litter that was scattered over the car park and into the hedges. North Norfolk District Council's development control policies give excellent guidelines. I remind you, non-detailed advice from Natural England does not imply that there are no impacts on the national environment. Morstan Quay is a finite, a natural space. It has distinctive settlement character vital to its wildlife, flora and fauna, with its own visually sensitive skyline and seascape, which are identified as key elements requiring protection and enhancement in local development control policy EN2. Non-essential development of an undeveloped coast can have negative cumulative effects on landscape and biodiversity, clearly cited in control policy EN3. This area is heavily protected. This is an abuse of that protection and an unnecessary development for such a sensitive area. Thank you.
Thank you.
I still don't know how that turned off.
Leave it on. One objecting speaker, Mr. Robert Metcalfe. Can you come to the microphone, please?
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Robert Metcalfe. I'm a resident of Morstan. With due respect to the planning officer's conclusions, I disagree on a fundamental point of their assessment on this application. The suitability of the siting of the planned development under EN1 and the design under EN4 appears to have been assessed with regard to the way that Morstan Quay looks today. The resulting consideration seems to be that because the Burger Van will be sited adjacent to a partially developed car park, it is not detrimental to the landscape. However, Morstan Quay should not look like it does today and would not be like it if the National Trust had abided by previous planning constraints. The temporary porter cabins should have been removed along with all associated infrastructure when planning permission for them expired in July 2021. Not only that, but additional development has been undertaken by the Trust across the site, including adding many meters of fencing, erection of dozens of signboards and notices, and placement of numerous picnic tables, all without planning approval. This has had a wholly detrimental effect on the quay. While rewilding is very much the conservation impetus of the moment, Morstan Quay has been de-wilded by the National Trust. This proposal is a further step in that direction. By incremental moves and an apparent disregard of the constraints of EN 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9 and the landscape character assessment of open coastal marsh, Morstan Quay has become partially developed. It is wrong to reward that creeping development by using it as a reason to justify further degradation of the landscape. This process should be halted and the quay should be restored to the unabused state it enjoyed so recently. There is a second point I wish to raise. There appears to be a presumption in the application that further development of the quay, which is the subject of a separate initial planning application, will proceed, and therefore the Burger Van will be a minor addition to the scene. This is not a foregone conclusion. There is a great deal of anger within Morstan at the Trust's plans for the quay, and this current development should not be viewed in the context of future plans. There is every chance that the next set of proposals will never be realised. In conclusion, this application should be rejected, taking these two things into consideration. The National Trust has degraded the quay so that a Burger Van fits in. The Trust should not be permitted to benefit from this abuse of the landscape. Future development plans should not be relied upon to make this development seem less significant. Please take into account the views of Councillor Holliday, our parish council, and Morstan residents, and reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no supporting speaker. Councillor Holliday is out of the country at the moment, I believe, but has sent in a considerable, well-argued statement, I believe. Yes, Darrell, if you read it, please.
Okay. Thank you. This is Councillor Holliday's statement. She says the community objects to this application. It is felt, and I quote, to destroy the strong sense of remoteness, tranquility and wildness which until recently was characteristic of Morstan Quay and surrounding marshland. The National Trust's application seems designed to specifically increase visitor pressure at Morstan Quay. The proposal is thought to be completely unsuitable for this highly protected location. It will commercialise and suburbanise what is meant to be a tranquil and wild area with a sense of remoteness. Visitors come for the natural landscape and wildlife. There is already a pub in the village and a kiosk on the quay. The proposed hours of operation will increase footfall. The increased staffing will require more corporate infrastructure, and there will be an increase in refuse and litter, all of which diminishes the natural surroundings. We are entrusted the duty to conserve, protect and enhance the Norfolk AONB. The Norfolk Coast AONB Management Plan, updated in 2022, of the 7 key qualities of natural beauty of the AONB, 5 are rated as amber, i.e. having some grounds for concern, and 2 as green, i.e. the key quality is being conserved and enhanced. The relevant key qualities rated as amber are, firstly, strong and distinctive links between land and sea, then diversity and integrity of landscape, seascape and settlement character, then exceptionally important, varied and distinctive biodiversity, and finally, sense of remoteness, tranquility and wildness. Surely these 4 key qualities of natural beauty are, to a certain extent, within development control. One of the most critical key qualities has dropped from green to amber during the recent period 2014 to 2022. Exceptionally important, varied and distinctive biodiversity based on locally distinctive habitats. This is worrying considering the importance of the nationally and internationally designated habitats within the AONB. The explanation for the downgrading of these key qualities of natural beauty is given in the AONB management plan as significant developments have adversely affected the character of the coast. These impact on the setting of the AONB as well as increasing recreational pressure. Some of the most high-profile characteristic bird species are affected by pressure from coastal visitors. The population in and close to the AONB has risen significantly. visitor numbers have increased significantly since designation and have remained high. As stated in the officer's report, visitor pressure in sensitive locations such as this can be a concern. Downgrading of the key qualities of natural beauty of the AONB and the reasons given leads Councillor Holiday to disagree with the officer's assessment that this proposal would not result in any material harm to the character and appearance of the surrounding landscape or have any adverse effect on the designated sites. Councillor Holiday finds this proposal does not comply with the new National Planning Policy Framework, paragraphs 180 to 184, which referred to the need to protect areas of outstanding natural beauty and the heritage coast. She also considers it does not comply with current local plan policies EN1, EN2, ENV3, ENV4 and ENV9. And also Councillor Holiday also finds that it does not comply with the following policies in the new local plan. ENV1, which states the highest degree of protection will be given to designated landscapes of the AONB. ENV2, proposals for development should be informed by and be sympathetic to the key characteristics and valued features of distinctive landscape types and character areas. And finally, ENV3, heritage and undeveloped coast development will only be permitted which is not detrimental to the open coastal character. That's the end of Councillor Holiday's statement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. A couple of questions from me before we move on. It's been referred to as a burger van. My understanding is that he's providing the usual National Trust teas, coffees and cakes, the odd sandwich. Right, it's not.
No, it's not a burger van.
Thank you. Let's make that clear for the benefit of the press and anybody watching, please. You've had your say. Thank you.
Can I say there's no impediment to it being a burger van in the future?
Thank you for your. I think it's highly unlikely, unless there's another applicant. The second question is, as my understanding is that the National Trust can park this van 28 days in any 1 year without requiring planning permission.
Yes, that's correct. That's a permitted development right that's available to them. So in effect, we're looking at 28 additional days.
A 28-day extension to cover the
over what they could what they could do anyway. Yeah,
the peak season. Okay, members. Councillor Kim Toy.
Firstly, I don't feel as though I can support this application. Areas such as Morstan Quay should be maintained as an area for wildlife and all the accompanying features that it naturally displays. We should not consider these areas as an attraction for us, for humans, or a playground. It should be a place to enjoy and appreciate its naturalism. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's switch to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to say, I'm in total agreement with my colleague here, and in particular the local member. I am also would like to say I'm very disappointed that the Norfolk Coast Partnership have not submitted any comments, as they are the custodian of what is now a national landscape. I know they have difficulties in keeping up because they are a little bit short of planning officers, but could I please plead that you chase them up? I know they're not a statutory consultee, but I think that something like this, it is absolutely vital that they are heard. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to propose that this is refused, citing all the policies that Councillor Holiday put forward, and I can't remember all of them.
You can't make that proposal. We have to vote against the officer recommendation.
Right, okay.
And then
Well, that is my reason. I will vote against it, please.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair. I've just noticed that I am a member of National Trust, so I should have declared that interest. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of the National Trust.
One of the few then.
So hence don't feel the need for additional food and drink provision in a location such as this. Disappointing that we don't have a little bit more analysis from the landscape team. It says no objection, but it would be helpful to have that additional analysis. No analysis of an additional business case for an extra 28 days. It's unfortunate in my view that permitted development rules operate in this location to the same extent as they would in any other, given that it's in the AONB. It's almost as though policy should be exceptional in the AONB in that respect. I think I'm going to vote against the officer's recommendation on this one.
If members think further information is required, then it is open to those of deferral. Anybody wishes, or we can proceed as I can see this going now. Councillor Hankin. Yes, okay, then we'll come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the event that this is refused, how close is the alternative refreshment provider?
Well, I would suspect, and Darrell will explain it, that they can put this there for 28 days anyway.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there is a tiny cafe, I believe, on site, which opens occasionally. The odd times I've been there, it's always been closed.
Yeah, okay. But doesn't answer
I've
that.
got a site, yeah, the station at the caravan is on where the Red Cross is. The cafe, the takeaway cafe is in the lookout building, which is just there. If you can just see the pointer.
My understanding from reading this is there's already room in the cafe not being fully utilised. So why on earth are they looking to put a van a few feet away that's going to? I don't understand the need for it.
It's a takeaway cafe. It's not a sitting one. It's you can see it better on it. It's in this build, in the lookout building there. But they're saying it's to meet they've had complaints about people having to queue particularly when there's boat trips to get served at the existing servery, which is quite small in fairness.
Right. Can we come back, Mr. Chairman?
You can.
Realistically, if they cut, they've got seats there. If it's a takeaway cafe, why can they not put personnel in there if they can put personnel in a trailer? Come on, let's be realistic with this. You've got a building there. Let them use it properly, fully, and do without the blot on the landscape.
Okay, I won't prolong it. I can sense where you're all going with it. Therefore, to move things on, I will propose and second from the chair, so we can get this out of the way, and we can take the vote, and then we'll deal with the aftermath. Sure you have all the reasons you want lined up, Angie.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So just to confirm, the officer's recommendation is for approval of the application. Councillor Adams. Councillor Beatty.
Against.
Councillor Bayes. Councillor Brown. Councillor Fisher. Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Hankins.
Again.
Councillor Heinrich.
I'll obviously have to vote for.
Councillor MacDonald.
Against.
No.
Oh.
Councillor Mancini Boyle. Councillor Neville. Councillor John Toy.
Against.
Councillor Kim Toy.
Against.
And Councillor Varley. So that is 1 vote for, 11 votes against and 2 abstentions. The vote is lost.
Okay, we need a recommendation from the floor for refusal, and I need the conditions, please,
Okay,
and the reasons.
I will propose that this application is refused. And if the officer could please quote the conditions of the local member, I would be extremely grateful because I agree with every single one of them. And I think that should be part of my reasoning for refusal.
Okay, to summarise that for members, it's that it doesn't comply with current local plan policies EN1, EN2, ENV3, ENV4 and ENV9, and is against the policies in the new local plan as currently under inspection, ENV1, ENV2, ENV3.
I think council holiday means EN3, EN4 and EN9 because there's not ENV policies in the current core strategy.
Thank you for the correction. Yeah, Russell.
Can I just suggest that the reasons are limited to the policies in the adopted existing plan rather than, which is a fairly extensive list as it is, rather than complicate it by trying to then mirror the new one as well.
Sound advice. Sound advice. Okay, so that is proposed on those grounds and seconded by Councillor Netherway. We'll vote again, Lauren.
Thank you, Chairman. So the recommendation is for refusal for the reasons discussed. Councillor Adams, Councillor Beattie,
for
Councillor Bayes, Councillor Brown,
for
Councillor Fisher, Councillor Fitch-Tillett, Councillor Hankins,
for
Councillor Heinrich,
for
Councillor MacDonald,
for
Councillor Mancini Boyle, Councillor Netherway,
for
Councillor John Toy,
For.
Councillor Kim Toy, for, and Councillor Varley. So that is 12 votes for, 1 against and 1 abstention. The vote is carried for refusal.
So the application is refused. Okay, we move to the last item. At this point, I'll hand over the chair to MacDonald. You come and take my place and I'll depart the room for 5 minutes. Unless you want to take another half hour of that. Simple.
Ready? Okay. Can we move on to item 13, which is North Walsham PF 232479?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the case officer for this one was Nicola Way, but she's currently at university, so I'm going to present on her behalf. So the application is for a porch and single-storey front extension. If we can get the plans up, I'll be brief. It's here because of, as you know, the applicant's a member. The only update in terms of the report is just to highlight that, as Darryl did, Chapter 12 of the MPPF has been updated to include beautiful places. So that's really it. If we can just move on to the next one, please, Lauren. So that's the proposal there. You can see the proposed bit, sort of the darker bit at the front of the house. And if we go forward to the next slide, a couple of photos of the front of the property, and then there you can see, if I use my mouse, so the porch is being extended here, and the bathroom in here is being extended as well to the front. So those are the additions you can see there between the existing and proposed. The application is recommended for approval. Any questions, let me know. Thank you, Chairman.
There's no speakers, anything from local member?
No, we have no town and parish speakers, no objecting speakers, no supporting speakers, and no representation from the local member. As it is appreciated, they did not call the application to committee. It's because it is a serving member.
Any members? Councillor Toy.
Yeah, I see no issues with this application, Mr. Chairman, so I'm happy to propose.
Councillor Mancini Boyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nice to see somebody actually coming to development with a porch. People just get on with it, don't they? I'm happy to second this. I don't see there's any problem with this at all.
Councillor Netherby.
I just wanted to ask a question. I'm assuming that the application has not come beyond the front building line.
I think there's a varied front building line, so yeah, you can see on that plan it's not beyond bedroom 1. So it is forward, but not forward of all of it.
We had a proposer. Did we have a seconder? Can we go and vote then, please?
Thank you. So just to confirm, the officer's recommendation is for approval. Councillor Adams, Councillor Beattie,
For.
Councillor Bayes,
For.
Councillor Brown,
For.
Councillor Fisher,
For.
Councillor Fitch-Tillett, for Councillor Hankins,
For.
Councillor MacDonald,
For.
Councilman Stephen Boyle, Councillor Neville, Councillor John Toy,
For.
Councillor Kim Toy, for, and Councillor Varley. Of the attending members present, that is unanimous.
Planning approved. Can we get plan was approved? Can we move on to number 14, development management performance update?
In Mr. Lyon's absence, this will be the shortest report in the history of these, I suspect. Because of dates around Christmas, bluntly, there isn't a report. There will be one next time, and there's nothing to worry about by me saying there isn't a report.
Item number 15, appeal section.
To be honest, this is as read, or as written, rather.
But I like a concise officer's report. There seems to be an awful lot of appeals at the moment.
Any comments?
Not hugely. Yes, there are a fair number, but I wouldn't have said that's particularly unusual for the last 12 months or so. We are getting quite a few through.
Through you, Chair, when it says fast track, how fast is fast track? Are we talking about, 30-mile-an-hour zone or a de-restricted zone in terms of getting from start to finish?
I think it might have been better called faster track.
Councillor Toy.
Yeah, just a quick question for officers in the appeal decisions. Barton Turf, was there any learnings from that? Because that's obviously we have a good record and all the others dismissed, but it was allowed. Just wondered if there was any learnings that we should pick up from that.
Without being able to remember the detail of that one specifically, we do have regard to both the ones that are dismissed and the ones that are allowed as we move forward for various reasons. One, lessons learned kind of thing, and secondly, bluntly, if you've got to write an appeal statement and you can use one from before, particularly one from before which has been successful, and quote the inspector's reasons, then both that improves our chances, and bluntly, it makes it easier to produce the statement. So learning from these remains important for those two reasons, realistically, both ease of workload and performance in general.
Chairman, just sorry quickly, just the Barton Turf ones, just to highlight they were Broads Authority applications.
Councillor Mancini Boyle.
So just a question to development officers, please. I seem to recall that we were getting quite concerned about the length of some of these appeals. They seem to be dragging on for years. And I'm not sure if it was me that said, is there any way we can actually have a cut-off date? Because some of these tie your officers up like for weeks and weeks and years and years. Have you put any more thought into that? Or is it you know, is there anything you can do about that? I know you can go to appeal and appeal and appeal. Some of these are dragging on for 3 years, 4 years.
So I think there's a couple of responses to that. One, in simplistic terms, we're not in control of the timetable. The planning inspectorate control both timetable and particularly how long it takes them to reach a decision. So we don't drive that bit. The bit where we have a degree of choice is how much work, possibly the wrong word, is worth putting into the council's position. So for sake of argument, pick the one at Morstan that you've just refused. If the applicant were to appeal that, we could take the view that all we're going to do is say, well, see the committee report, see the committee minute, that's it, that's our statement of case. Or we could spend, I'm now going to exaggerate, 1,000 hours writing up every component of the reason for refusal. Personally, if that were to go to appeal, that one, it should be somewhere in between in that regard. So we have some tactical decisions to make, which is why sometimes you might think that report goes on a bit. You know, but occasionally you might think that, but actually the more we put up front, the sounder the decision is, and the more we can rely on that going forward. So the core answer is no, we don't control the timetable, but we can have some influence over the inputs. But bluntly, if this council has refused something, you know, we should make best endeavours to defend that position.
Councillor Beattie.
As regarding the mast at Holt, there was quite a lot of opposition from Leverensec regarding this. I know it's already been refused and that's why they've gone back to appeal. I'm just curious because they seem to already have the land and that's been, for what a better word, compulsory purchased. Is this something to do with critical infrastructure or something like that? Is that going to cause a problem regarding this mast?
So not knowing a great deal about the case in question, I have to say, the past experience of telecoms, mast-related issues, and this isn't about North Norfolk directly. So there has been a track record nationally where councils have taken the view, let's just call it, that masts look ugly, discordant feature in the location and have refused them on, let's just call it, design visual impact grounds. That's not unusual. Now, often local people don't like the thought of a mast down the road where they've had nothing blocking the view. The planning policy at a national level probably puts a degree of onus on the fact that we all want, broadly, good quality telecoms coverage, and there's sort of a quasi starting presumption that requires a mast somewhere. So the issue is often about various things. Is that the best right location? Does it need to be that tall? Could some other high structure get used instead? Back in the day when I started this, telecom companies almost by right had to have a mast each rather than any form of sharing in that regard. So it's always a slightly contentious issue between what is effectively now almost the utility we all expect to have access to, and actually with that sort of territory now there's two parts of it. It's the kind of the hardwired broadband connection to wherever you are, and then it's the mobile signal for wherever you're you're not. So it's always a tricky one, that, and the companies, my experience, have a not necessarily a high likelihood of being successful in appeal, but do have a track record of going to appeal in that, guys. But I can look into the detail as to the timelines of that and let you know.
Councillor Netherby.
Without wishing to sound too sanctimonious about this, I'm led to believe that Norfolk is the holiest county in the country. I've been told that you can see at least 2 churches from wherever you're standing. So why aren't we putting these things on top of church towers?
I start with a flippant observation. When you referred to holiest, I thought you were talking about the network coverage having most holes in. But anyway, until I cottoned on to you were referring to churches. Yeah, I don't know statistically on churches. You might be right. I mean, there are challenges that a remarkable proportion of those churches are listed buildings. Quite a lot of them higher than grade 2, which would then create its own problems. But there are some examples around the country of masts on churches, so it can be done. And as you implied, the church is often the tallest structure in the area. And certainly from past experience elsewhere, not in Norfolk, the companies are not averse to working with churches or the other building that often stands out, the sort of water tower type stuff as well. So that those high buildings are generally looked at, but just don't forget that most of the churches here are listed, quite a lot of them grade 1, which is almost makes it a non-starter if it's a grade 1 church.
I don't know whether it's relevant or not, but there is a growing wave of churches that are lacking in congregation, and the various villages are applying for them to become village hubs. So from that perspective, I don't know whether that changes anything, but it would get around the idea that people don't like to see a mass. If they've got a crane there next to sit in the first place, it's probably not going to be an issue, is it?
Councillor Brown.
It's not impossible to obtain permission to put a mast on a grade 1 church. I can give you an example. Broadland consented to one in Saul, between Causton and Reefham. That's a grade 1 church, and that I understand has a mast. I can speak from sort of bitter experience on this, that the telecoms companies quite often say that the architecture of the towers on churches interferes with signal efficiency and capability. But they always seem to include it in their submission. As we know under the protocol, they've got to consider other sites. I think it might be 5 other sites. And they seem to always choose the nearest church to say, well, that's unsuitable for whatever reason. But and there was a government push when they had a lucid moment about 5 years ago to put masts on top of churches. But I think the government have learnt now that it's not quite as simple as perhaps the minister thought it was when he made that recommendation to the telecoms companies to try and achieve structures on top of church towers.
Thank you. Councillor John Toy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to perhaps help members, I spent 20 odd years in the Royal Air Force going around installing radar and communications, and it's not as simple as just popping an aerial on a building. There are much more technical considerations, and but Councillor Brown is right. Most applications you will see, they will have looked at the nearest building and discounted it. Often they don't come back for discussion to see if the church is prepared to make changes that would make it suitable. They just discount it and move on and do not discuss with people, which is a bit of another issue. But technically, yeah, and it's going to become more challenging with 5G when it gets here to us, because you will need more aerials because it doesn't propagate as far. So yeah, there's a lot of technical issues around it, and the main thing I think is talking to communities that needs to be developed. But obviously, if anybody's got any applications going on and they'd like some input, I'm happy to do that in the light of that knowledge. But yeah, it is quite technical and complex to find the right space. Thank you.
That's everybody. I think that concludes our meeting today. Thank you very much.